Live from the Pitch Pad in New York City. Get ready to unleash your inner entrepreneur with Pitch Live with Amy Summers. Whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur or just dipping your toes into the Shark Tank, this is the place to be to discover how to turn your pitch into reality. Fasten your seatbelts, pitch stars, because the spotlight is on you and we are about to make success happen. Get ready for Pitch Live in 3, 2, 1. Welcome to Pitch Live. I'm your host, Amy Summers, founder and president of Pitch Publicity and Vox. I'm also a hardworking entrepreneur who is passionate about helping you reach success in any area of your life. And I know that's possible after decades of experience in perfecting the pitch and enhancing communication skills, which is why I'm here and joined today by LaKendra Tookes, who is not only the funniest female comedian on the planet, but also the most glamorous, which is very unusual. And it's hard to find somebody who's funny and attractive. But she truly is the complete package. So I hope you are joining us on YouTube because you are going to want to see LaKendra in action today as well. She is also an extraordinarily talented writer, actress, TV host, with her work being featured on numerous networks. She has written for Saturday Night Live, served as a correspondent for Access Hollywood, and recently joined the SiriusXM and Radio Andy family, hosting Reality Checked every Wednesday. Our paths crossed in New York through our local alumni association club, the University of Florida, Gotham Gators. Go Gators! I originally pitched LaKendra to participate in a comedy show for an event we were hosting, and later convinced her to join Pitch Publicity as a side hustle to her entertainment career. So from 2017 to 2019, I can't even believe it was that long, LaKendra, looking back now, I had the honor of working with her on many of our client campaigns, or I should say our clients had the honor of working with LaKendra, until she made the move that she was always destined to make to Los Angeles, across the country. And while she's always a pitch star to me, she's also a pitch pro. So you're getting double here today. She's a pitch pro in the entertainment world, and I invited LaKendra specifically to Pitch Live today to delve into the art of pitching in entertainment. It's a career that many people aspire to be in, but find very challenging to navigate. And I'm very confident that we will learn a lot from LaKendra's experiences, maybe have some laughs today because she's so funny. Welcome, LaKendra.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you so much for having me. And thank you so much for giving me a job back in the day when I needed a job, Amy. You came right on time. So I'm forever eternally grateful to you for that.
I remember thinking, if she can go up there and do comedy to a live audience, I mean, you got to think of all the jobs, like as far as like rejection goes, I think a comedian's job is the hardest. So getting rejected by media people, not a big deal if you've done the live mic nights.
Yes. I mean, I always say comedy is so hard because you either immediately hear the laughter or you don't. Like, a singer or an artist, anybody else, you get the feedback later. As a comedian, you get immediate feedback. You either hear some laughs or you don't. And that is a comedian's worst nightmare, is not hearing the laughs. So it was definitely
I remember that event that we did. Remember that event we did for the University of Florida during COVID, and it was like a Zoom and it was an awards night thing. I'm like, LaKendra, come on and do like a comedy routine. And you were like, this is like the kiss of death because you can't hear people on Zoom or get their reactions.
It is harder. And you just have to kind of like, it's a muscle that you kind of exercise, and you just kind of have to. I always say I'm a selfish comedian. I like to make myself laugh first. So if I've made myself laugh, hopefully you guys will laugh with me. If not, I'm like, well, that's okay. I made myself laugh.
You make me laugh all the time. But let's get back to the side hustle because I have a lot of young students come and intern with me at Pitch, and so many of them, I would say like the top 2 areas they want to go into is either entertainment or sports, which is also, I think, the most brutal, low-paying, terrible jobs, which is I've always tried to stay far away from both of those. But they're always asking me about the entertainment world. And I've since I've known you and we've worked together and I've watched you, It's really interesting to me how you've used the skills of pitching throughout your career. So I want to get into that. But first, let's talk about the side hustle because you did come work for me. Is having a side hustle a common practice for individuals who are pursuing careers in entertainment? Is it something you should expect to do if you want to try to be a star?
Yes, because you're not sure when you're going to start making money doing what you love. And because the entertainment industry, everybody wants to do it. So many people are willing to do it for low pay or no pay. So especially in the beginning, you might be interning, you might be making not a whole lot of money. And it's really hard to be creative and funny and charming when you're broke or when you're hungry or when your lights just got cut off. It's not a fun place to be. So it's best to be able to have your mind clear of all your make sure your basic necessities are met, and then you can focus on doing what you do, being creative, being funny, being entertaining, like doing your craft, So if you can figure out a way to get paid doing what you're good at, great. But if it's going to take you a little bit of time, sometimes you do have to figure out another way to just sustain yourself, because life is expensive and it's only getting more expensive every day. So yes, you might have to sometimes, I've taken jobs that I didn't necessarily want. When I first moved to LA back in the day in my 20s, I had a 9-to-5 job. I worked as a nurse recruiter and I just did improv and comedy and other things I like to do at night. I always say, even if you have a 9-to-5 that you don't necessarily love and you're not passionate about, you have from about 5:15 to midnight every night to go and do something that you do love. So that's what I did at that time. So I've always, because you gotta make money, you gotta live.
Yeah, and I remember one of the things that when we discussed this idea, it was just at the time I really needed some help. And I, of course, had this bright idea. Why don't I see if LaKendra wants to do a side hustle at Pitch? But I remember you telling me, if you will allow me to go on auditions at the drop of the hat, that's not going to bother you. If you basically were telling me if I would be flexible with you, you would work hard for me. And it kind of worked out. So when you're picking your side hustle, do you find that that's an important factor?
When I had my 9-to-5, and if they're listening right now, I am so sorry how many times I had to lie and say I had a doctor's appointment and my grandma did this and I had to, when I was auditioning to be on Saturday Night Live, we had to come to New York. I was living in LA at the time. I had to come to New York to do the screen test. And then they were like, "Oh, we like you. Can you stay the rest of the week?" The acting job of a lifetime. I had to I actually sent an email because I was so scared. I'm dealing with a family emergency and I can't be back this week. It's bad, but you have to do what you have to do because you have to survive. And you do have to have that flexibility because, even right now, if I book a commercial, so sometimes I'll get a call like that day or like, "Hey, you have an audition this afternoon." You have to be able to go. And then when you get there, it's not like you're in and out. You have to wait. And then when you do book the job, they'll say, "Hey, block out these days." So September 13th through 18th, you don't know which day you're going to be called in to shoot. So, that flexibility is important. It really is, especially when you're trying to break into this business. Pardon my dog. She's really cute. She might come in and say hi, and then she has a little cough.
Debbie's a star.
But yeah, the flexibility, if you can find a side hustle or a job with a cool boss. I was always really honest, even with you and me when you were my boss. I was always really, transparent with my bosses about like, "Hey, this is what I do." And even when I would go in to interview for a sales job, I would talk about my experience as an actress, doing comedy, doing improv, because all of those skills are important in sales. They're important in business, So I would always tell them what I was up to. I would invite them to my shows. My coworkers would come to my shows, and they knew like when great things would happen for me, they were all excited for me. When I had to quit my 9-to-5 job because I literally was sitting at my cubicle when I got a phone call from Lorne Michaels telling me that he wants to hire me as a writer. I'm sitting at my cubicle and I had to let my bosses know like, today's my last day. And they were also happy for me, So, it's hard, but if you have a great personality and you're fun to work with, easy to work with, you'll have so many people that are on your side and on your team and rooting for you. And it just makes doing these side hustles and things that you have to do to survive, it just makes it a little bit more manageable.
That's a really good point. I think not hiding, your real passions and just letting people know up front that that's what you're doing. And then they, like you said, they become your cheerleaders. And I remember when you would tell me, Amy, I can't work today because I have an audition. I wasn't upset because we had this agreement ahead of time, and I was happy for you. And I was happy for you when you moved to LA and went on and did Access Hollywood and everything. So, but it makes sense what you're saying, why so many people in entertainment do take side hustles that are probably like, jobs like waitressing and stuff, because I guess taking a professional job is difficult then because it's so sporadic, your entertainment life. It's hard to hold down a professional job.
It is. You have to have your fake excuses. I was going to say your lies, but you do have to lie a little bit sometimes. But you do have to have your excuse, and you got to space them out, because they're going to be like, you have a doctor's appointment every day this week. That doesn't make sense. So you got to say, oh, my apartment flooded. You have to think of all these things. And I mean, it stinks. However, it is, it's what you have to do.
And when we were working together, we were already remote. So this is way before the pandemic. So of course that made it easier on you too. And now I'm sure it's a little bit easier for some people because so many businesses are now remote. It probably makes it a little bit easier for that person that's trying to pursue an entertainment career.
Yeah. I mean, the pandemic was, terrible. However, I think a lot of people learned that you can do things remote. I did so many auditions remote. I booked a commercial off of a audition that I did like in my bedroom, So yeah, things have gotten, I think things are actually easier now. It's just so much easier to even just like put yourself out there. I'm old, so I'm not really into like the whole like TikTok thing. However, a lot of people do kind of get discovered there. So yeah, it's just these days, it's just there's so many things you can do. And then I've realized too, I'll have my heart set on I want to do A, B, C, D, but you might have to go A, Q, Roman numeral 4. Like you don't know how you're going to get there. So I think you have to be really open to whatever great things the universe may have for you. You have to be open. I think like for me, I wanted to be Oprah. That's it. I want to be Oprah. I want to move to Chicago and I want my own talk show every day. Like that's what I want. But it's like, you know what? There is a path to get there, and your path might be different from everybody else's. And I remember people telling me, you have to figure out a way to enjoy the journey. And I was like, shut up. But you do. It's not easy, but you do have to figure out a way to keep a good attitude, enjoy the journey, be grateful for every little thing. Be nice to people, because you never know. You never know who's going to be a decision maker one day. So you do have to figure out a way to enjoy the journey, even though I know that is a lot easier said than done.
I want to move on to some of your experiences with Saturday Night Live. But before we get to that, before we leave this subject matter, your short time working as a publicist with Pitch Publicity, did you pick up any skills? Oh, I don't know why these balloons are happening right now. Yay! Surprise. But during your short time with us, did you pick up any skills that have now helped you in your career from pitching media? Did that perspective of pitching our clients to media help you in any of the pitching that you're doing today on yourself?
Absolutely. Yes. Selling these other people. All of your clients are really good. So they were all easy sells. Like usually, to be honest, I would call and they'd be like, oh yeah, Dr. Ken Red Cross, of course. Yes, please. So that made the job a lot easier. But absolutely, because I'm a writer also, so I'm pitching myself. I'm also pitching my ideas, and you have to make people believe in you, believe in your ideas, take a chance on you, even though you maybe don't have 1 million followers or you aren't the most experienced person there. So I think that. Again, Amy, I'm eternally grateful because you helped me, you gave me a job, which allowed me to pay my bills. But also I did learn a lot of valuable skills. And also I learned so many skills from you. You're just such a dynamite entrepreneur. You're so hardworking. You're so passionate. And I would say that's probably like the most valuable thing I learned working from you, is just kind of like watching you work. And I think any young person or any person aspiring to do anything could learn a lot from you, Amy, because the way that you run your business and how passionate you are and just your energy, it is definitely something that I still keep with me to this day. So I know this is not like you didn't start this podcast so that your guests could just
Let me
come
get
on
the
here.
balloons going again.
But I'm going to do it anyway because yes, I learned so much.
Thank
I'm
you.
very, very grateful for that time and that experience. And I did not really have experience as a publicist before, but you still took a chance on me. And again, that's one of those things where, you know, did I go to school to be a publicist? Was I out here like aspiring to be a publicist? Not necessarily. However, I was still able to learn a lot of valuable skills that I bring with me now to auditions, that I bring with me to my pitch meetings for my projects when I'm pitching myself. I mean, anytime you're auditioning, you are pitching yourself. You're saying, hey, I can do this. And also, you're going to love having me on set for 18 hours a day because I'm a lovely person to be around. So there is a lot of that. So I learned a lot.
Yeah, I think with your background in broadcast journalism, obviously in school, you're learning how to be on camera and all those valuable things that you learn. But maybe from picking up from being a publicist, you also learn how to position and how to present and how to, you had to close a lot of bookings and interviews for me. So I'm sure that helps in what you're doing now. So let's move on to what you're doing now. And before we get there, everybody's always fascinated by Saturday Night Live, even to this day. It was so cool that you had the opportunity to write with them. I want to know what was it like to be in those weekly meetings? How did you pitch script ideas? How did that work? If you're in a room like that with a bunch of other very talented people, how did you make your ideas stand out?
I got to tell you, it's really hard. It's really hard. It's really scary. I would not wear mascara because when we do the table read, and so we do the table read on I think like a Tuesday or like a Tuesday night. No, Wednesday night, because Tuesday night was writing night. So you do, and then on Mondays, okay, I'm gonna run you down the week, okay? On Monday, we all pile into Lorne Michaels' office, and the host sits in the middle. So the host, let's say this week our host is Amy Summers. So you're sitting in the middle, right in front of Lorne Michaels' desk. And then we're all, me and everyone else, Kenan Thompson, like all these like very funny people are there. And you, like on my very first day, Drake was the host. So we had to sit there. I'm like, Drake, he's so dreamy, by the way, in person. It's like, so I had to sit there. It's my first day. I'm nervous. I'm scared. But you still just have to, you got to just say it. And you got to say it like from your chest. You got to say, hey, here's my idea. It's hilarious. You're going to love it, because then you also have to convince the other people in the room, the more experienced people in the room, to maybe want to write it with you. You got to convince Kenan Thompson to want to be in your sketch as well. You know what I'm saying? So it's very scary. And what I would do, we do the table read, very scary, very nerve-wracking the whole time. And then I would not wear mascara because I would likely be crying if one of my sketches did not make it onto the board. Because like we could do the table read of like 40 sketches, but only like 10 to 12 are going to make it onto the show. So it's really hard and it's very, very scary. I mean, opportunity of a lifetime opened so many doors for me, eternally, forever grateful. And it was such a wonderful experience. It was a dream, but it's very scary. And if I could turn back the hands of time, I wish I would have been more confident during that time. I think is that imposter syndrome where you feel like you're not qualified to be somewhere? And I felt like that a long time while I was there. I was always just like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm here.
It was so early in your career though, wasn't it?
It was. It was like my first big job.
That's amazing. I mean,
yes. Thank
you. It kind of, I always say like with clients, like, of course they want to be on Today's Show and everything first. I'm like, you don't want to be on those shows first. You got to like warm up to it. But like, that's what happened to you. You kind of, you hit the main stage first. And in a way that's kind of unfortunate because usually, in your career, you start building that confidence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was really scary for me. And I'm a pretty confident person, but at the time, I think I was so wrapped up in how big it was. And, all these celebrities are around and you're just feeling like oh my gosh, little old me. Like, I mean, it was a big deal. It was a national news story. Like, no one in my family has ever been on the national news, at least not for any good reasons. And so I mean, yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot of pressure. And if I could turn back the hands of time, I do wish I would have had a little more confidence. I wish I would have really felt like I belonged there a little bit more. And that is why it's great if you can kind of work your way up to those moments, because I know we all want to be a big star. We all want to be on the Today Show, Entertainment Tonight. But you know what? You can get a lot of experience, and it's a lot better to make those mistakes and to be nervous at the local TV station and make those little mistakes down in Chitlin Switch, Arkansas. That's okay. There is nothing wrong with that. And just give yourself room to grow, because it's really, I mean, having Saturday Night Live be your first job in the business, it's really hard. It's really scary.
What did you take away? What did you take away from that job that you still use today? Like what skill in pitching do you still leverage today from that job?
I think probably the reason why SNL is still on there after all these years is because it's such a great team. Everybody that works there is great. From Lauren Michaels right on down to the janitor lady who takes out the trash. Everybody there is great and they're lovely people. I think having a great team is very, very important. And like, for instance, like on the show that I'm doing right now on Radio Andy, like I call us the dream team. We're the dream team. And we go in, and we have it's like, we're all there. Our goal is to have a great show. It's not about me. It's not about anybody else. And I feel like that's what makes SNL so great. It is like everybody is there to put on a great show. And I think that's probably the most valuable thing that I learned from that experience that I will take with me in everything that I do. I always want to be working with great people, and I always want to be on a team that our goal is to just have a great show. I think that is very, very important. And
knowing that now, and I want to get to SiriusXM next, but knowing that now, if you had an opportunity and you met the team and you were like, I'm not feeling it, would you walk away from it now where maybe you wouldn't have before?
You know what? Maybe. Cause like it's hard because you want these jobs, you want to work. However, I mean, you get to a place where like your peace is very important to you and your stability. And again, it's not easy to be funny and charming and charismatic. It's not easy to do it when you're broke. It's not easy to do it when you're sad. It's not easy to do it when you don't feel comfortable. I know for me, I'm my brother always says that I'm a unique individual, and I am. So I have to feel comfortable. So I think it would be hard. It would be hard for me to take a job where I didn't feel comfortable. And it would be hard for me to do my best work if I don't feel comfortable to just be the unique individual that I am. And I have to feel like that is appreciated. So yeah, so I probably would have a hard time taking a job if I didn't, love my team. I like to love my team.
When I was stalking you on Instagram last night, preparing for this interview, I noticed that, I mean, I know you have your own Wednesday on SiriusXM on Reality Check now, but I noticed in 2018 you posting, I'm so excited that I get to interview with Andy. Has this been a long thing coming, or tell us how it came about?
Okay. So years ago, now I've been on Reality Checked on SiriusXM's Radio Andy channel 102. On Reality Checked, we talk a lot about, Real Housewives, Bravo shows, reality shows. So the woman who used to host Reality Checked, I knew her. When I was auditioning for Saturday Night Live, this is how far it goes back. When I was auditioning for Saturday Night Live, my improv teacher recommended that I have a chit chat with this woman named Amy Phillips, who had also auditioned for Saturday Night Live. She's a really amazing comedian, does really great characters. Well, then she does a lot of impersonations of the housewives. So she hosted Reality Checked first, and she would have me on as a guest sometimes. So this was years and years ago. This was back in 2018. So then fast forward to last year when they were looking for a new host, they had been bringing in various comedians and podcast hosts, like different content creators. They had been bringing people in. Last year also, I'm a writer and an actress. Both of my guilds were on strike last year. So it was very scary And I was like, what am I going to do? Am I going to have to go work at the grocery store? I literally, like, you see a help wanted sign at the grocery store. I was like, should I submit myself? Should I just be a cashier? So, I mean, I was really nervous about what I was going to do with my life. And then honestly, like, it was like divine intervention that they reached out to me like, hey, will you come guest host for 1 week? And I said, you know what? This 1 week, I'm about to give y'all the best show y'all ever had this week. I'm pulling out all the stops. I'm giving it everything I got. And then they kept asking me to come back. They kept asking me to come back. And now I am on every Wednesday is Ken's Day. So I was able to build those relationships years ago when I was a guest, an unpaid guest on the show. But I was able to build those relationships, and here we are today. So I do think those relationships that you build, they're very important. You never know when somebody's going to call you. You never know when that phone's going to ring with good news. You never know when you're going to get an email saying, hey, are you available to do this? You never know. So I think you just always have to put your best foot forward, do your best, and make connections, be nice to people. You never know when the opportunity is going to, when things are going to work out for you. So I'm very great. Again, I'm very grateful.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. And you bring up a good point, because I want to ask this too. If you are looking for a career in entertainment, where do you network? You mentioned this person, this woman was from the Saturday Night Live, you knew her then, but I just noticed, like, you're not on LinkedIn a lot. Like, where are you networking to make these connections that could be so valuable for your career? And are people in the entertainment industry open to helping each other out, or is that not a thing?
Sometimes. Some people are open, some people are not. I think that it is, you kind of just start feeling the vibes a little bit more about like who's cool and who's not. And sometimes I'm really nervous. Sometimes I'm really nervous to ask for help. Sometimes I'm like, I want to reach out to somebody, but I'm scared. I don't want them to think that I'm just reaching out because I need something. But I think that you have to also know that you're not reaching out because you need something. You're reaching out because maybe you're an asset to their team. That's what I have to tell myself sometimes when I'm really nervous about reaching out. But I'm like, maybe somebody would be so happy that I reached out to them. Maybe I'm just what they're looking for. So I'm not good at networking, to be honest, because I'm not a very good schmoozer, because I mean, not to turn it into like an episode of Real Housewives, but I hate being fake. Like I for me personally, there's no way I could just go up to somebody and schmooze and be like, I love your work. I can't do that. Like, if I tell you I love your work, I actually love your work, because I can't do it. You will look at my face and know.
Windex.
Yes. So I'm like, for me, again, I've been very fortunate that I've been able to be around a lot of really wonderful people who appreciate me and appreciate what I do. And it just makes it a little bit easier for me, because I'm not great at the social media stuff. I'm old school. So like, I need to get better at it, because it is like the wave of the future. But I am not good at the schmoozing and all of that stuff. I just have to be myself and be authentic, and that's who's going to want to work with me.
Okay, let's talk about location then, because this is a question that always comes up. You've lived on both coasts, New York, LA. What is a better city? It's always where you're at that makes a difference. I know for me in PR, New York is the city. Which is the better city, New York or LA, for entertainment? And does it depend on what type of entertainment you're going into?
You know what? I think it depends on what kind of weather you can handle. Because I lived in New York. I did not like being cold. I did not like the rain. I did not like schlepping to the subway. I did not like that. So for me, I am happier here in LA. The sun is shining. Now, in New York, it's easier if you're an actress. It's easier to go on auditions. You can do 3 or 4 auditions in a day because you can just hop on the subway. It's really easy. Transportation is not as easy in LA. But so it really, for me, it just depends on like how you feel about the weather and how you feel about transportation. Because I feel like they both, were fine in terms of like going on auditions. And then these days too, you can do so much stuff remote that it doesn't really matter. So I would say It just depends on what type of weather you can handle. Yeah, they're both expensive. The cost of living is expensive in both. And the opportunities are different. So I think if you put your mind to it, I think you can find success anywhere. But especially if you're choosing between LA and New York, I mean, I know that sounds so so silly to say, but honestly, it would just be the weather.
Okay. Now, tell me about agents, because I think you have one, right?
At this time I have a commercial agent and that's it. I only have a commercial agent.
And is it important to have an agent if you're going to get into the line of work that you're getting into? And how do you pitch an agent?
Okay. Is it important? Yes and no.
Okay.
When I got hired at Saturday Night Live, I did not have an agent. I Not to toot my own horn, but beep beep, because I did do that pretty much on my own. It was just me and the Lord. But it is nice to have an agent. It's nice to have somebody kind of working on the scenes, working behind the scenes on your behalf. That is nice. You do have more access to auditions and stuff like that. It is just easier to have an agent. However, if you don't have an agent, that's fine. You can still put yourself out there. You can still do what you gotta do. I think some people might kind of think it's kind of impressive if you're out there doing your own thing and you don't have an agent yet. Pitching yourself to an agent is really hard because when I lived in LA years and years ago, now this was years and years ago, before people did everything digitally, I printed out my headshot, printed out my resume, sent it off to a bunch of people. When I tell you, you wanna know how many responses I got? Zero. Zero responses. And so then, and it's hard because you have to have an agent to book something good. And then sometimes you have to book something good to get an agent. So I did the latter. I booked something good and then was able to get an agent. So pitching yourself to an agent, it's really hard. It's hard. Back in the day, especially if you had to like write a letter, like, hi, I'm LaKendra Tookes. I'm really talented. Like, it's hard to do that. But these days, I think if you're putting yourself out there, I think agents will come to you now. If you put yourself out there, I think the times have changed. And I think there's a lot of things that you can do on your own. I don't think it's as imperative to have an agent. So if you have an agent, great. If you don't have an agent, great. Like you're fine. Because I feel like when I had my theatrical agent, I think I kind of like was resting on my laurels a little bit. And now that I'm kind of hustling a little bit more on my own, I think I'm actually getting more done on my own. So it really just depends. I think whether you have an agent or not, I think you really have to be your own agent. You have to always be like kind of treat yourself as a business, and you're always running yourself, which is your business. So I think that's important whether you have an agent or not.
And I guess too, with social media and everything now, there's a lot more opportunity for you to really show your work versus what you were describing, like the old days of sending a letter, like who would ever notice or recognize you, right?
It was terrible. And I wasted so much money on postage. Like today's kids will never know. Y'all have it so easy now, you can just make a TikTok and then all of a sudden you're famous, So, so yeah, the times have changed. And I think like pitching yourself to an agent, honestly, make that agent pitch him or herself to you because they're going to be working for you. And you want somebody that really believes in you, believes in your talent. You want somebody who, when they get on the phone about you, like I want my agent to be on the phone like, LaKendra Tookes, she's amazing. She bakes cookies. She makes banana bread. She's the most amazing person in the world. You're going to want her on set. Like that's what you need. So I think, yes, you need to impress them, but make sure they impress you too.
And I like what you said too, like sometimes even having them will give you that false sense of security that someone's always working on your behalf, but maybe not so much because they have a lot of clients.
They have a lot. Yes. And that's something to think about too. Like maybe sometimes like, yeah, like you might want the big agent at CAA or whatever. However, you might get more bang for your buck with somebody who's more mid-level or boutique because they'll have more time to give you guidance because that's what you need, especially when you're just
and they're trying to look good too. So if they're not like the big agency and they're trying to make a name for themselves, they might hustle a little bit harder for you, right?
Exactly.
Well, speaking of pitches, we're going to be wrapping up, but I wanted to know, do you have a pitch for our audience on what you're working on right now or any pitches you would accept coming your way? And how do people follow you and connect with you?
Okay. Well, listen, follow me on social media. I will not post all the time. I'm not even going to lie to y'all. I'm not even going to lie and say I post all the time. I don't. Every now and then I post. I'm quality over quantity, okay? So when I might not post a lot, but when I do post, it's a good post and it's a cute post. So follow me on social media at LaKendra Tookes. And if you already have SiriusXM, I am on every Wednesday. It's Ken's Day on Radio Andy, SiriusXM channel 102. We get started at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. If you watch a lot of reality TV, especially if you love The Real Housewives, you will love this show. However, I will tell you, my dad listens, and my dad is not a housewife fan, and he even says, LaKendra, I enjoy the show. So I try to make it fun, whether you watch The Real Housewives or not, and you can call in. I'm like Phil Donahue. I take callers. We have so much fun. And if anybody would like to pitch to me, if you are a young person who knows how to do TikTok and all that stuff, I need you on my team because I am not great at that stuff. And if you want to come and hop on Team LKT and teach me how to TikTok, baby, come and work for me.
I like that. Well, LaKendra, thank you so much for joining us today. I know you have inspired so many people on your career journey, and you're going to continue to do so because we're going to be watching you. And I want to encourage everyone to share this episode so we can get more people exposed and inspired by all the amazing things LaKendra is doing. Be sure to follow her on IG and TikTok and become her TikTok manager. You want to message her on IG, though, because she's not going to check her TikTok messages.
I am for real. I'm so serious right now, Amy. Like, I did not mean to turn this into like the me show. However, I need a young person. I need a millennial. Wait, who's even younger than a millennial?
Gen Z. That's who's watching.
I need Gen Z. I need Gen Z.
And they're so good at TikTok.
Yes.
I'm on TikTok now.
You're on TikTok too?
I saw that you were on TikTok, but you're not posting much. So you definitely need someone to help you out.
I need someone because I don't even know how they do it. How do people do it? How do you do it where you're like this and then there's an article behind you? How do they do the dances? How do they do the thing where they just, and then they're in a new outfit? How are they doing that?
Come help LaKendra at LaKendra Tookes, and then tune in to SiriusXM Radio and Reality Checked every Wednesday, Ken's Day.
Yes.
Thank you so much, LaKendra.
You follow me on social media, and if you don't have SiriusXM, I will give you a link where you can get like 3 months free.
Ooh. Yeah, Don't be cheap. I liked your social post that you posted recently. You're like, quit being cheap. And
quit being cheap.
Yeah.
SiriusXM membership. You know, I got to tell you, I'm worth it.
She is worth it. Well, thank you so much. And thank you for joining us on this episode of Pitch Live with Amy Summers. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and give us a rating or review. Your feedback helps us plan future episodes. I hope you were inspired today to get out there, pitch, advocate for yourself, maybe even like put your resume out there at Saturday Night Live. Who knows? Make success happen like LaKendra did. And as a bonus, join us at easyvox.com where you can get motivated, hone your communication skills, and binge as much mentorship as you want whenever you need it. The link is in the show notes along with all social media handles for me and LaKendra. Find us on TikTok. Help us on TikTok. And let's stay connected. Until next time, MSH.